Okay, Alice, keep smiling. I think we're still here. Do we got audio? Okay. So I'm having trouble hearing Alice. Can you hear me? You can only hear me? Sorry, guys. You're here with us on this adventure, and just bear with us for just 1 second. Whoever is here, we're really glad you're here. Okay. All right. How we doing? Let's see, I'm not sure if we got anybody on Facebook right now, but if there's anybody on Facebook, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. All right, checking in with our back end people here. We'll get started in just a minute. Hey. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for giving us a like. I don't know if that means you just liked the video if you heard me, but I'm going to hope that you heard me. Okay. All right. Bear with us for just one more minute. We'll let a few more people filter in anyway. Okay. All right. We've got confirmation at the moment that I think I can be heard. Just going to get another confirmation. And Alice, we might have to like just have you wave a whole lot and give us lots of thumbs up, and I'll just point at you and say things for you if we absolutely need to, but hopefully we'll get through this. All right, it's going to be a Lisa show for a minute. All right, I'm going to pay attention to everybody on Facebook anyway. Right, I didn't prepare a prop performance for y'all on here while I'm waiting on my own, so sorry. Thanks for bearing with us. And I see we got a heart from Crystal. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, is anything better this time?
It sure is, Alice. We got you.
Wonderful. Awesome.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Welcome. Let's get rolling.
Welcome to our first hiccup. There will be some while we figure this out, but we're going to make the best of it and have a wonderful time.
We got this.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here. We just wanted to thank and welcome everybody. Welcome. I speak English very well. welcome you to the first mini event of the Embrace Digital Flow Arts Retreat series. We are so happy to have anybody here with us who's viewing. We hope a few more people will watch this on replay. So hello if you're watching this later. We hope everyone's doing well. We're delighted to finally get this kicked off and bring you all of the amazing teachers and performances and other fun things that we've been building and planning for so long. First, we're just going to start with some introductions. Hi, I'm Alice, if you didn't already get that, the Alice half of the bottom third on your screen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the communications director. If anybody responded to your Facebook comment or an email, that was probably me. As many of you know, this event series was created because WildFire in-person events were canceled for 2020, and we miss seeing all of your beautiful faces and working on all of these amazing projects with our community. My first WildFire was in 2015. I was completely out of my depth. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't spin any props. And Lisa, the other lovely face on your screen here, is an old friend of mine and was the executive director at that event. They teased me that I would feel right at home in no time and I would be an organizer before too long. It didn't take more than 2 events before I was, in fact, in an organizing role. And a few months after that, I found myself in a director role. My now husband proposed to me at WildFire in 2017. We got married at the same camp a little more than a year later. That place, this community, these people, this bubble, this is my home away from home. So the lesson here is listen to Lisa and find your people and cling to them tightly. This seems like as good a segue as any, though. Lisa, would you care to introduce yourself now?
Sure would. Thank you, Alice. Hi again, everybody. I'm Lisa Elkins. My pronouns are they, their, them. As Alice mentioned, I used to be an executive director and a few other awesome hats that I was lucky enough to be able to wear in and around WildFire, including being a founding director of the Spinning Arts Foundation board, which is the parent of WildFire. And I'm actually back on the board now, so thank you for your votes, those of you who voted for me. I appreciate it. So I'm now the executive director of the Embrace event series. In the Muggle world, I'm a trainer for human resources, and my middle name is Karen, and I really feel like I live a double life sometimes. WildFire is the place where I get to go, or have gotten to go, where I can fully be myself. I feel like I am the best version and most authentic version of me when I get to do this. So when everything of 2020 happened, and we realized that unfortunately we weren't going to be able to safely have any WildFire events. Really, it was Alice who started being able to not sit down still for any amount of time whatsoever, and absolutely needed to make sure that this community had everything that they needed to the greatest degree possible to come together and to still continue to learn and to build community. And as a board director, I hopped in to kind of help out in the executive director position. So I'm going to take a moment here and just say huge thank you to Alice, because Alice has poured, I mean, blood, sweat, and tears to no end into this. Not that many tears, actually. We've done pretty well. And we have the rest of our crew as well. I just wanted to mention some names. Rebecca Nurse is our operations director, and we have Brenda O'Neill, who is our video editor. And you can't see him, but he's here. We have Kitch on the back end running our streaming platform for us right now and making sure that everything is as smooth as our technology can possibly let him do, which, you know, is going to make his life a little bit difficult. So sorry, I am going to check my notes. I try not to make it obvious that I'm using any, but it's not. I'm not so great at it. So for those of you who have been to WildFire, you know that we do what's usually called a newbie meeting. So we're going to do a very brief version of that and just give a little brief history of WildFire. WildFire was around long before I came around in 2010. It started with, it depends on who you ask, 11, 32, 57 people on a soccer field who wanted to teach each other some things and share some skills. And that eventually grew into WildFire. If we have any of those people who were around before I was around, or who were around maybe even for that soccer field, please feel free to stick something in the comments, and if everybody else could give them some love, whatever you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, it would be super cool to say hi to you. So yeah, so that was, I'm going to be honest, I can't remember exactly what year that was, but WildFire then grew into something that sells 300-ish tickets where we all get to go and be our authentic selves at June Norcross Webster up in Ashford, Connecticut. And here we are now trying to do whatever we can online. We know it can't possibly be a replacement for WildFire, but we hope that you will share. If you have ever been a teacher, vendor, performer, or organizer at WildFire, you are, or if you haven't, you're more than welcome to shoot in an application at our website, which you can see, I think, like somewhere right here below me. And if you've been a teacher, vendor, performer, or organizer at WildFire, comment, and then everybody else can go and give you some love there because you're amazing, incredible people. All right. Alice, I'm going to shoot it over to you.
Yes, hi. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to be putting up a really cool thread on Facebook. One of the magical things that happens in person at WildFire is outside of the workshops, the amount of learning and sharing of skills that happens is phenomenal. It cannot even be described. In the dinner line, while walking across the field, standing outside your tent, people are teaching and sharing and learning all the time. And we were trying to find a way to bring a little bit of that to you through the digital sphere. And again, it can't possibly replace it, but we're doing everything we can to continue to connect with and hold tight to our community, our flow, our props, all that. Please hold tight to your props. Don't throw them and hit somebody. So I'm going to be putting up a Skillshare matchmaking thread on Facebook where we want people who want to learn how to do something, have something that they can teach, to connect there. If you are really great at fans, but you've been wanting to figure out how to move that over into poi, if you have been doing wonderfully with your staff, basics, but you want to figure out how to level up to the next, super cool trick, post there, ask somebody, say, I need somebody who can help me learn this, or hey, I'm really good at teaching people how to Steve. Connect with each other, find ways to learn from and with each other. And I think we can build something really cool there. There are individual posts on Facebook for both of tonight's workshop teachers. If you have questions for them before their workshop, you can ask there. But afterwards, once their workshop is running, if you ask a question on the Twitch stream, on live streams, on YouTube and Facebook, our moderators will see them and will be pulling questions from there for the teachers. They will be relayed by the moderator to the teacher during the class when they ask for it, when they're ready for questions. We are also trying to do some really fun challenges where we ask people to submit things that we can share and have some fun with. The challenge for this week is spin all the things. We are asking viewers to submit videos of 15 seconds to 1 minute of you spinning something that wouldn't normally be spun. Could you turn a banana into a rope dart? Would it be possible to make, I don't know, small staves out of Lego? Whatever. Come up with something creative and interesting, give it a spin, send us a video, and we're going to cut them all together and celebrate and enjoy it in a future stream. We ask that you please submit that video no later than next Tuesday. We will have all of this information in a Facebook post. You will see it shortly. And please film those videos horizontally, because since we are doing a lot of this on computers, it is the best way for it to be viewed. As Lisa said, we are still accepting all applications for teachers and performers. And all of that information is on the website, which you do see down below us there. And, okay, so the other really cool thing from the in-person WildFire event that we are bringing into this space is Beaver Awards. If you don't know what they are, Beaver Awards are a way for us to celebrate the busy beavers at WildFire who have gone above and beyond to embrace the mission of the event, which is to spread the spreading arts and build community. So we look to recognize people who have taught an extraordinary number of classes and individuals how to do something really cool, or who just helped pick up dishes around the dining hall, or who put in extra work making sure that all of our woods piles were safe and dry if a rainstorm suddenly came in. Anybody who has really gone above to answer the call to give to their community. We are bringing that here into this space, and we're calling it the Cyber Beaver Awards. Again, on Facebook or on our website, you will see how you can nominate people for that. What we're looking for here is people who have gone above and beyond out in the real world, in the physical world, in the muggle world community. We know that everybody has been through a lot in the last couple of months. It has been a roller coaster of challenges, if we're going to put it mildly. And I think we all have a few people in our lives who we have watched really just lean into it and give everything that they can to support the people around them, the community around them. And we would like to find ways to recognize and celebrate them. So please submit an application, celebrate the busy beavers in your life. And on Sunday, the 23rd, we are going to go live that afternoon to announce who the Cyber Beaver Award winners are. We are also going to be mailing a little something special to those people so that they can remember and enjoy how much they're community. My dog, thank you.
I knew that was
the community recognizes and appreciates them. Yeah, there's always something fun, right?
She's welcome to live streaming. Yeah. We'll make her a host for the next one.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Lisa, would you mind talking about the merch store for a moment, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, we do have a merch store that's up on Threadless. If you go down to the website, that's right there below me, you'll find all the links that you need, including for the Beaver Awards and our Threadless store. Some of our, 5% of our proceeds are going to a nonprofit. In my notes, I am not positive what it is, but you will be able to see it up on the Threadless site there. So there, you are going to see Alice's beautiful logo for Embrace 2020 that's available on several different shirts and hoodies and things like that. You'll also find some WildFire throwback designs, and we're going to be throwing a few more of them up there. We're just checking in with the artists to make sure that everything is kosher with us making sales there. So these sales are part of what are going to help us pay for the back end of this event. No, it is not nearly as expensive as a WildFire is, but there are definitely some costs that are associated. So the event is free. If you want to pick up some swag, we don't know how long we're going to actually keep the shop open. It may be only for August. We may close it for a while and then reopen it some other time. But please head over there and help us for a good cause and help to support the back end of Embrace as well. Alice, did we mention dog tags already? I don't think that we did.
We did not. So why don't you take that, and then I will talk about our instructors.
Wonderful. Okay, so in addition to the swag that you can get on our website, you will also see something where you can grab up some dog tags. The dog tags are normally something that we do as basically your ticket into WildFire. It's how we know that you got in there, and it's a cool little souvenir that a lot of people collect. So if you head over to our website, you can donate any amount to Embrace to help us, again, to just help support the back end of this event, and we would super appreciate it. If you give $15 or more, or any increments of $15, you can get yourself a dog tag. And you can go to the website and you'll see the design right there. Don't forget, if you do give an increment of $15, after you're done donating, fill out the little mini form that comes up to just let us know how many tags you wanted for the cash that you handed over to us. And we really do very much appreciate it. I hope to see those dog tags on a whole lot of necks soon. All right, I'm all good, Alice.
Excellent. So part of Embrace's mission is to benefit our instructors. Everybody has been hard hit and losing work, having to change their mode of work, having to change how they find their audience. So one of the things that we've done is we've encouraged our instructors and artists to include a way to tip them. We encourage people, if you are enjoying the workshop that you're taking, if you've had a great time watching the performance that was on, please tip your artists. They will so greatly appreciate it. It's a wonderful way to show them that you enjoyed the material that they worked so hard on bringing to us here. You will see on the bottom of the screen, just like Lisa and I have here, there will be the information about who the person is that you are seeing and a way to send them a tip and some thank yous. We are also going to be including those links on the Facebook page. You will be able to find all of this anytime. And speaking of, our first teacher tonight is super cool, and I am really excited to be opening our event with this particular kind of class. Nick highlights here in his class description that teaching online comes with a completely new set of challenges that we need to adapt to as teachers. Teaching movement arts makes this even more complicated. You have to think about the basics of a classroom layout, presentation style, etc. Online classrooms come with new challenges like broken feedback loops, infinite distractions, infinite Wi-Fi connections, sound issues where you can't hear somebody for the first 5 minutes. Nick has been regularly teaching movement classes online since March and has amassed a good amount of lessons to share and bring to our community. So I'm really excited that the first thing that we're starting off with is a way to help us learn and teach better online. So Kitch, when you are ready, we're going to go to our first workshop.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Somebody give me some sort of feedback that this is working, but otherwise I'm going to continue regardless. Very well. So thanks for that excellent introduction, Lisa and Alice. My name is Nick Anastasia. I have been a WildFire community member for 10 years now. Yeah, my first WildFire was 2010. Haven't been back in a while, but I'm happy to come home digitally at least to be able to share with the WildFire community. I wanted to reach out when I saw the call for instructors and share what I've learned so far in teaching online. So a little bit about myself. I am a parkour instructor, so I teach parkour classes until March. Those were all outdoors in gyms in person. And suddenly, just like most of you, I was thrown into a situation where I suddenly could not go see my students. And I still wanted to teach, and my students still wanted to learn. So the group that I work with very quickly pivoted and started teaching online. As well as that, I also teach in a couple of different maker spaces, teaching things like 3D printing, digital design, and other types of craft and making. And so I've been teaching those classes online as well. And I've been able to combine lessons from both of those types of classes that I'm going to share with you today. So my goal is to go through a few lessons learned that I've had from all these different types of classes that I've been teaching, as well as hopefully answer questions. Hopefully we have some teachers who may have questions that have situations that I might not have encountered yet, but I want to be able to share that as well. Kitch, are we able to throw up my split screen stuff, or am I just gonna? There we go, perfect. Sweet, so as was introduced, this session is called Teaching Movement Arts in a Virtual Classroom. So as I said, most of my experience in this particular realm comes from teaching parkour, but I feel like a lot of that is going to apply directly to object manipulation, dance, theater, all of the sort of things that WildFire loves to do and likes to teach. So let's get right into it. If I can have my first slide, please. Excellent. So as Alice said in my brief about the class, we of course have to think about all of the normal things we would think of as a teacher. So think about your lesson plan, think about how you're going to set up your classroom, but you are also thinking about how you are setting up your teaching space, as well as you need to communicate with your students how they are going to set up their learning space. And the more communication you can do, the more effective I think that is going to be. In order to create engaged learning experiences online, I feel like we need to almost double down on that communication that I send out sort of pre-class, like, okay, here's the class you're going to take, here's a little bit of information about it, and then if people are signing up in advance, the day before the class, I will then send out here's a preview of what we're going to do in class today, here's the props you need, here's the space you need, anything that they might need to prepare, and then right when everyone joins into the class, okay, here's today's lesson, here's how to prepare your space, let's make sure everyone is ready to go, and have some time built into your lesson plan that some people are not going to have read your emails, are not going to be quite prepared. Give people a moment to get that preparation out of the way. But especially if you have recurring students, that if you can set out that expectation that you are saying, here is what you're going to need to be ready, and if you can have students that are engaged and ready to go right at the beginning of class, that'll be more learning that you as a teacher can impart. So a couple things just to think about as an instructor now that we're moving to online. I find that audio is the most important thing for communicating across this medium. Video is great, and being able to demonstrate is important, but as an instructor, even of a physical thing where it is often easier to say, hey, stand this way and do this thing, whatever that happens to be, if I can be more descriptive with my language and teach as if my students cannot see me, or at least prepare to teach as if my students see me, then when that inevitably happens, you'll be able to continue teaching. I have definitely had at least once, I was teaching a class in a video call setting. Everyone's video cut out, but I was like, okay, is everyone frozen? And everyone could hear me, so I got audio feedback that everything was still working, just no one could see each other. And the class was a timed thing. It wasn't like, okay, let's all wait for video to come back. We just had to continue, and I had fortunately prepared descriptive language that I knew for all of the movements that I was going to do. And about 5 minutes later, when everyone's video came back, I was delighted to see that everyone was doing the movement correctly on all the little boxes on my screen. So really plan out your audio. Along with that comes your microphone setup. I prefer to use Bluetooth headphones because, again, as a movement teacher, I can stand up, move around, do this, that, other thing. Test your headphones, test your microphone, whatever you're going to do. I went through a couple of different sets of headphones before I found something that I could do a vigorous workout, moving around, doing cartwheels, doing handstands, even just jumping up and down. I would have earphones falling out of my ears, and that just doesn't go well with trying to communicate well. So testing your tech, make sure everything is ready to go. And then jumping back to thinking about your teaching space setup, think about your background. I fortunately have just a big white wall that I can teach against most of the time. This is later in the evening than most of my classes, so I had to bring in a bunch of extra lights in this room so that you could see me. But it's an important thing to think about if you're going to be demonstrating on video. Light your room appropriately, make sure you don't have so many distracting things in the background. Also thinking about just the general, I am now teaching in my living room. My living room is not normally a place that I do parkour or spin, or how high are your ceilings? Do I have space available to do whatever the movement is that I'm going to be able to do? And think about how your students are going to be set up similarly, because they're also likely in the same situation, that they're in a small room, they don't have a ton of space, they don't have high ceilings. Can you give them adaptations that says, oh, I'm teaching a parkour class, I'm in my living room, I live in a second floor apartment, I have downstairs neighbors, I can't really be jumping up and down doing most of the things that I would normally do in an outdoor parkour class. And I suspect many of my students are going to be in a similar setting. So how can I give them adaptations for those movements that you can imagine with an object manipulation to say, oh, I'm doing this hoist spinning or staff spinning. I don't have high ceilings. I don't want to rip down my lovely ceiling art. So think about how you're going to be able to adapt your object manipulation, your movement, to a small space because every student's going to have a different situation, and be ready to adapt on the fly. So think through as many potential options as you can. And then lastly, I'll double down on test your tech. So be super familiar with whatever streaming platform, software, technology that you're using on your end. Make sure your Wi-Fi or your internet is going to be as reliable as possible, but also be prepared to be able to help your students when they have problems with their connection. You know, whether that is knowing where to find the settings in the software for some student that says, oh, I can't hear anything. Be like, make sure you know how to tell them where the audio settings are. If they can't turn their camera on, make sure you can't know where those settings are, and that you can be able to help your students be as ready to go and help you help them as much as possible. Hit the next one, Kitch. Excellent. So that's sort of physical preparation, getting your space ready and getting ready for the possible readiness that you might need to help with your students. Next is preparing mentally as an instructor. So what sort of alternate mindsets am I going to need to have ready for teaching online? As I was saying earlier, increasing your communication frequency and the quality of that communication with your students, building student engagement, especially if you're working with children, becomes really difficult in an online setting because some of the things mentioned earlier, infinite distractions are at their fingertips. They're sitting at a computer, they're sitting at an iPad, and it's very easy for them to minimize the window with your lesson in it and go watch YouTube on Facebook or whatever else kids might do on the internet these days. And then so make sure you're continuing that communication, that you're sending out lesson plans in advance. One of the things that we do for our parkour lessons is I actually make a video for every single class that I teach. So my lessons are an hour long. I make a video that's 2 minutes tops, with just like quickly, here is a demonstration and the name of every single movement that I'm going to be doing in the class. And that's sent out beforehand. We just publish those on our Instagram that all the students can go watch. But you could also send those directly to students. There's lots of different ways to distribute it. But giving students that reference beforehand of here's the skills we're going to be working on, here are the names of those skills, here's what those skills look like, will just lead to better prepared students when you get into this online setting. The next one, slow down. I've been blazing through this way too fast. And one of the reasons that I tend to talk fast in an online class is the feedback loops that you normally have talking to an audience of students are now broken. This is a particularly difficult setup, and this is actually a new way of teaching for me. I've never taught an online class before this right now, where I've had basically no feedback whatsoever. So I've always taught in a video call setting where there's at least two-way communication between me and the students. It's a little slow and it's clunky, but that is so far my preferred way to teach, but that only works into a very small group. You get a video call with more than, say, 10 or 15 students, and I've seen it work a little bit, but it becomes unmanageable as an instructor in terms of giving individual feedback to each student, which I think is really the biggest thing as instructors that we provide for our students. It is nice to give them lesson plans and give them, here is the technique. But the most valuable thing that I get out of a coach-student relationship is being able to see their technique improve as the student makes adaptations, and I can help them saying, all right, you need to tweak this, adjust this, lean this way more, whatever that piece of feedback happens to be. So slow yourself down and set realistic expectations for what can actually be accomplished over this medium in a set amount of time. You can get very powerful change, and you can learn a lot through this online setting, but I personally think at least when it comes to movement, it's gonna take more time than it would in a one-on-one setting. Be adaptable, be ready, for all these hiccups and things that are going to be difficult or complicated. Be ready to change up how you teach things. I definitely, because I have to make that video before every class I teach, it really makes me think through, okay, what is the best way to teach this movement, because I am taking a video of it. And so I know, like, oh, this is going to be best viewed from the side, and I practiced that a few days before the class because I recorded the video of it. So it's very easy for me to quickly jump from one thing to another, change the angle, change my body position in order to demonstrate this movement as best as possible. And thinking through, if I was a student, if I was learning this move, what would I want to see? And that may or may not be the same thing if I was standing next to you trying to teach you something versus if you're staring at your phone screen or watching it done on a computer. What you want to see might in fact be slightly different, because most people standing next to each other aren't going to like crouch down and stand right next to your feet and say, oh, this is exactly how you're landing that jump, or this is the position that your shoulders are in. But if you can point a tripod at a specific part of your body to give focus to this is, you're going to do this move and your shoulders should be in this exact position, and you have the video just pointed at your shoulders, it gives people that point of focus that can help them, that you can then replicate in the live class. As I've mentioned a couple of times already, the feedback loop between teachers and students is non-existent to very broken, depending on how the streaming setup works, what your video setup is. This sort of one-way webinar works to get my instruction out to a large number of people, but it takes even longer for you to get feedback back to me. So I hope you've had questions already and you're sending them to my moderators, and they will be able to feed those to me in a few minutes. But the more feedback you can get back and forth between students and instructors is really helpful. And then the hardest thing that I've found to do is creating that community feel of a class, which I know we all love at WildFire, of seeing students helping other students. And it is one of the hardest things to do in this setting, but if you can facilitate that as an instructor, then I feel that you've conquered this medium of online teaching, that I can teach one student how to do something, and then in that class setting, they can help another student improve their learning or give each other feedback in that way. And so I've had some success doing things like this on different streaming platforms. You can split students into rooms and have them work together on different challenges or problems. And I highly recommend exploring all those possibilities and finding ways to use that to your advantage. Don't rule out the impossible. It is very easy when coming to online teaching to just say, I cannot teach that skill in this online setting. I try not to say that. And when talking with fellow instructors, I try and call them when they say that. Because there is always some way that we can move closer to the skill. You might not be able to teach the entire thing, or it might be a very complex sequence of events in order to teach this sort of thing. But there is always some progression or breakdown or a step that the student can take on their way towards that larger skill. And so there's always a way. Just take more time, churn on it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find something. And then lastly, one of the most valuable things I found is create a support network of fellow teachers. I'm fortunate enough to work with a company of other teachers, and we are communicating regularly, talking about what different sorts of things are working well in our classes, what's not working well. And the other big thing is attending each other's classes. One of the best ways that I felt to get feedback for myself was to attend a lot of other online classes. And while some of them were on similar topics to what I taught, some of them were just completely different, things I knew nothing about, and I wasn't particularly paying attention to what I was being taught. I was paying attention to how it was being taught and taking notes on what another teacher does that you like and that you don't like, that feels effective and feels ineffective, and then rolling those back into your lessons. So if this community is fantastic and is able to come together and create a support network of flow arts teachers teaching online classes, I think that is extremely valuable. I've been fortunate enough to have conversations with groups of parkour coaches doing that and groups of folks teaching other sorts of online classes. And those conversations both have been great to get some social interaction in this time where we're fairly isolated, but also to help each other and help encourage each other, sharing ideas freely and getting people to help each other out. Hit the next one, Kitch. Also, keep a bottle of water ready. You're going to talk a lot, especially where there's no feedback. It's going to be a lot of you talking. All right. Last one, and then we'll get on with the fun. Couple things just to consider when you're planning your lessons. I've talked about a couple of these already, so we'll go through it quick. One of the big ones is, are you planning your lessons for a local audience, for a global audience, or somewhere in between? That's going to impact what sort of technology you use, how you advertise your class, and all of these things in between. Most of the classes I've taught have had a fairly local audience, which is advantageous in that it is mostly existing students who already knew the format of our classes, already knew a lot of how our instructors work. But reaching out into new audiences is a fantastic thing that this online platform gives us the ability to do. And setups like this, where I can broadcast a stream all over the place, and then it is potentially saved and recorded for later, to potentially bring in new students through that way. So make sure you're thinking about what all of the options are that online opens up to you, but also make sure that, if you like my setup, we had an existing community of students, and we want to make sure that we're serving their needs as well as expanding everything online. So trying to balance how you want to engage those groups. Nextly is thinking through, what do your students or your parents of students, if you're working with children, really want to get out of your classes. I've definitely been working in all sorts of different spectrums where we teach adult classes that mostly adults come in for fitness and fun and some social engagement. And so if I'm keeping that in mind as an instructor, that, my workouts are not designed to be like, all right, people come to my classes to get a killer workout. They're going to work super hard and they'll go away sweaty and happy. People do that. However, more of my students, I feel like, come to my classes for a fun, different kind of movement and to get some social interaction, and they want to get a workout as well. And so it's important for me to know that, thinking about how I want to plan my lesson. So the audience for flow arts classes are going to be all over the place in terms of, some people are going to want to learn new skills and improve their skills, and some people are just going to want to come at it to have fun, meet new people, and enjoy that sort of movement. So making sure you're planning for what sort of audience you want, and responding to audience feedback. Next is engaging your students, especially if you work with children. This has been one of the hardest things that I've worked with through these different kinds of classes, especially even in a video call setting. It is fairly standard for, in a kids class that I've been in, 50% or more kids just do not respond, don't turn their video on, almost never say anything other than here when you take attendance at the beginning, and goodbye when the class is over. And so trying to pull them in, get that bit of feedback, and be ready to engage them and keep them engaged. Because once you can get them into the movement and they start playing and having fun, I think it's a little easier to keep them there. But being able to pull them out of there, I'm sitting at a computer, why am I not watching YouTube or, surfing around doing something fun, playing video games, whatever that is. So that infinite distraction thing comes back again as an important thing to keep around. I already mentioned student interaction, trying to design your lesson plan so you can get your students to work with each other, talk with each other, play off each other. I ran a class pretty early in this system where I had people had a ball and they were just tossing the ball up and catching it. And I was like, okay, we're going to play a game. I put everyone in pairs and said, all right, you're playing catch with your partner. You're both going to say 1, 2, 3, toss, and you toss the ball and you catch it. And if you drop the ball, it is clearly because your partner made a bad throw. And then you both have to do something as a result of one of you has dropped the ball. And people really enjoyed just getting that sense of interaction. They know they're just throwing the ball to themselves, but being able to trick your mind into having some fun with another person, especially where we're not getting a ton of in-person social interaction right now, I feel is really valuable, and building that into my lesson plans as much as I can. Next, we've talked a little bit about props, setup of your space, thinking about with bringing in new audiences in this online setting. What about people who don't necessarily have props? Online stores are open, but not all of them, and they certainly weren't right at the beginning of all this. And so can you improvise with props? Can you be ready to help out people who don't necessarily have exactly the right materials on hand? Clearly, if I'm teaching parkour in a living room, I'm used to working with steel bars and concrete walls. I don't have any of that here, but I can think through, here's a bunch of ways that I can give people a target on the ground to land on, or I can give people, you know, a pillow or a chair or a block to jump over or climb over. Helping people obviously think through the safety of all that with any sort of improvised prop or equipment. You know, think carefully about what you advise people to do. But having those improvised alternatives at the ready are really going to help when you have some student who shows up and be like, oh, I didn't know I needed a thing. And be like, well, just run into your kitchen and grab a piece of string and tie an onion on the end of it, and there you go, you've got your rope dart, or a banana, as Alice was suggesting earlier. And then lastly is taking the fact that your students are at a computer and finding ways to use that to your advantage. I've played a bunch of interesting games with, you can put up things on the screen. I don't normally have a computer in my parkour classes, but so try and think about ways that you can use that to your advantage without letting it distract and send students off into a rabbit hole. So try and think about different ways that you can make your class into a video game to make it more fun for your students. We've had like online treasure hunts where they're, you know, the whole class is basically picking a point on the screen and be like, oh, what's under this square? And then as an instructor, I can reveal what's under this square on the screen. And that's, oh, we have to do this movement next. And we can use this as different games to build up sequences of movement or various other things. So finding ways to turn your class into a video game, use that computer to your advantage. I think that is just about everything that I could say about this. I'm sure there's more. But I'm happy to take questions. Hopefully there have been a few. If not, thank you very much for listening. And I hope some of our instructors are able to use some of this very long-winded thing that I've just said to help out improve your classes, both for Embrace and for other things. Let's see, do I have a moderator here to ask me questions, or am I have to go find my own questions? I've got some questions. Excellent. Let's see. So do I have any specific Bluetooth tech recommendations? Someone asked. I use a Trex titanium. They're a bone conduction headphone, but just because earbuds don't stay in my ears, and I found they kept falling out. They also have a headband that sticks around the back of your head. That's what I find works for me, but I really find just if you have the budget available to do it, buy a couple different ones, try it out, see what works. And you know, it's mostly an ergonomic thing. As long as the microphone and the headphones are good enough, especially when you're teaching movement, because different movements, you know, this headband may or may not be an advantage. It works well for what I'm teaching, but I could see maybe if I was trying to do, you know, shoulder rolls with a staff, that might get in the way, cause some problems. So really think through what sort of tech you need for your exact setup. You could, if you also get just a really good directional microphone, set it up with your computer as well. One other tech recommendation I will suggest is if you have stuff available to do so, try and set yourself up with a secondary camera angle. So I really like, for some of my classes, I have a setup. Let's see if this works. I have a second camera angle, and so I can just, instead of having to move my laptop around, I can just be like, ta-da, now I'm over here, and now I have much more space to stand up, move around, be like, all right, we're going to do handstands now. And then I can jump back to my other camera angle, and let's see if the technology cooperates. Yes, it does. How nice. And so you can jump back and forth, and things like that are very handy tech recommendations. Let's see, are there any particular techniques used to help with the fast talking problem to stop yourself from speeding? I feel like some of it ends up related to anxiety and want to fill in the blanks. Definitely. So, suggestions for stopping the fast talking. It is really hard in a setting like this where I have no feedback, basically. If you're in a setup like this where you're trying to broadcast out to the world, or you're doing a pre-recorded thing, you just need to think through how long it would take you to do this movement practice. This obviously isn't actually a movement class. So if I was trying to teach you a movement, I would then stand back, demonstrate something, be like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's a 3-ball cascade. We're going to do some quick juggling. And then I'm just going to sit here quietly and practice for a minute and let you practice as well. And I can chime in and give extra tips. But really, I want to focus on my movement. And I can say, oh, here's an extra challenge. If you're comfortable, try a different trick. But I personally, especially in the settings where I'm teaching, find it fairly easy to just sit there quietly and let my students work. And if you have a hard time with that, do the movement yourself and think about how long it would take you if you had never tried this before, or even if you wanted to drill and improve. Set yourself a little challenge of like, okay, I'm going to do 20 reps of this movement, or repeat this pattern some number of times, and just force yourself to shut up for a minute and slow down. But other questions? Oh no, I just closed the question spreadsheet.
I am here on audio for you, Nick, if you'd like me.
Ooh, yeah, if you can tell me what the next question is.
Sure thing. All right. Do you have a best recommended platform for using classes? What are the pros and cons of each? And I think this is referring to things like Zoom versus Hangout versus other things.
Yeah, so I'm currently teaching all of my classes over Zoom. It seems to be a pretty good balance of the video quality is pretty good, the technology is fairly reliable, and at least now it seems to have been popular enough that everyone's fairly familiar with it. At this point, I haven't had a student come into a class recently that's like had a tech problem and be like, have you never dealt with this problem in Zoom before? Most people are like, no, I know how to figure this out, just give me a minute. It costs money. It's not that much money. It depends if you're teaching classes for free or paid. If you're teaching paid classes, it's only $15 a month, so it seems like a good deal. It's got some security, questionable business, so you can do your own research about that. Just be aware of it. Google Hangouts works. I find the video quality on Google Hangouts is pretty bad, which comes back to my earlier point of prepare your lesson plans as if your students can't see you. But it is free and it works, but it's definitely not. It's not ideal. There are a bunch of other platforms. I haven't tried many of them. I haven't done teaching, but I've done some social stuff over Discord, and that seems fairly unreliable when you use video, but it seems very variable. And this is one of the things, especially if you're teaching professionally, you want something to be as reliable as possible. I feel like that's sort of your most important is, high quality audio and video, and you want it to be super reliable. And if you can get those two things, you're in good shape. I have other friends who have taught over Instagram Live and Facebook Live and those similar live streaming services, but they have the problems I've mentioned earlier of this broken feedback loop gets even worse when you can't see your students and only they can see you. So if you're trying to just put a lesson out there into the world, I think that works, but it's a little bit weird for me as an instructor. I would rather be interacting with my students in a smaller, more planned setting, rather than just be like, I'm going to go live and talk to you about this thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. So who knows?
Okay, we have
what else
one more question for you. Last one here. So you were speaking earlier about engagement and helping students feel engaged, and this question is actually about you. So teaching in a format like this with minimal engagement, what helped you to feel connected to your class?
I think particularly the WildFire community, knowing that and being familiar with that, made me feel, that I know there's going to be people out there watching who find this useful and appreciate this knowledge, which is why I volunteered to offer to teach it. It's definitely real weird with this low feedback setup, but I also knew this particular session wouldn't need a ton of it because I'm not actually teaching movement. I'm teaching how to teach movement online. So I'm excited to see what the other instructors for Embrace are able to take from this and incorporate into their online sessions. But I encourage them to, take some of the ideas I suggested of put out a little 2-minute promo video for your class and say, here are the moves that I'm going to be covering. So you've seen them once and you know their names. And then encouraging people to send me back a video of saying, after the class, take a little 2-minute video of yourself showing me how you were able to do with those things. And so even if you're not able to create that student engagement during the session, find ways to use this technology to create that engagement outside the session, which is almost even more helpful, is if you keep your students thinking about your class, think about improving themselves and sending you feedback. And then you can create that dialogue where you can say, hey, that's really nice progress, add this one tweak, and you'll be able to take it to the next level. So I think that's where I would start if I had to teach movement regularly in this sort of even less feedback setting.
Thank you. I think that is it for our questions for the moment.
All right. Well, then I want to thank everyone and thank Lisa and Alice and all of the other Embrace organizers for giving me some time. And I'm definitely way over the clock, as is WildFire tradition. So whoever needs to give me the boot is welcome to do so.
Hi again, everybody. I just want to say thank you again so much to Nick. That was wonderful. I don't even teach online, and I learned so much there. Anybody who enjoyed that, if you'd like to show your appreciation, Nick's link for tipping is in the comments on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on his individual post in our event page. Again, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I loved it. Our next instructor is Tasuma. They are a certified professional life coach and American College Sports Medicine certified exercise physiologist and wellness coach. They're here tonight to help us all learn to free our bodies and optimize our range of motion and improve our power and the efficiency of movement. I know I have been a little bit more sedentary than I would like these last few months. Many of you might feel the same way. I'm really excited to learn how to improve my body mechanics and feel better moving. Without further ado, let's move on to Tasuma's workshop.
Hey, how are you guys doing? My name is Tasuma. I've been to one WildFire, so I'm like a baby version. And I started spinning and doing some really cool stuff and I really enjoyed myself with it. Nick's, that was awesome. And I do movement for a living and, the switching of the cameras and all of that, age difference, I guess. But so what I'm here to do is talk to you guys about tissue. And I call it tissue issues. We have trigger points and impingements in the muscular line that needs to be released. So I have a couple of ideas. I don't know where you guys want to go. I didn't put together a full itinerary. What I did was I left it. So if you have comments, requests, thoughts, or ideas, you can send them over. Hopefully someone can tell me if I'm getting questions because I'm not really good at looking at the screen and coming up with the questions. I saw Nick doing that. Awesome. So I'm going to get my props for you and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I'm going to move my chair out the way. Welcome to my studio. I have lots of different toys here that I play with people. You guys should have fun with any of the stuff that I have. I'm going to drop my screen down so you can see what I'm about to lay on you. Okay, so In the studio, I keep definitely a plethora of balls. I believe balls are really great, so I'm going to bring down a bunch of them for you. And these are simple balls, from a racquetball to a lacrosse ball, to utilizing what I like to say. So we have a tennis ball, which is really awesome. My dog is in love right now. See my dog right there? He is totally in love. This is called a super pinky ball. This is really nice and soft. We also have a soft ball, a little harder, a little dense for tissue. Also have a lacrosse ball. This one's really, really hard for tissue. Another ball I like to utilize for people to use is 2 lacrosse balls inside of a sock. And it really helps to open up tissue that may be tight around the neck. We all utilize foam rollers, I think, right? They had one at WildFire, so everyone jumping on it. That's wonderful. But I like to go after the balls if you have really tight tissue, especially in the shoulder. So I'm going to start possibly upper body, because a lot of you guys do a lot of shoulder rolls, a lot of movements, so we're going to utilize that. Okay, good. All right. So I make a lot of my toys myself because they're expensive and I find them to be overly priced for what they are. So this is a really simple toy. All this is a PVC pipe, okay? Little tape on the end and a ball at the end. This will give you the ability to balance the ball, play with the stick, and have mobility. I'm going to utilize this for my shoulder right now, and the shoulder mobility is this. We're going to bring it up. This is a great way to warm up. If you guys are teaching a class or doing some kind of shoulder rolls, one of the big impingements you guys get tends to be tight chest and also tight lat. So we're going to start out with a very simple roll here. We're going to keep the head forward, okay? Chin's going to be level with earth. You're going to bring your hand up, your left hand up, my right hand back. It seems really easy, but what I'm trying to do is feel for any tightness or impingement that may be coming into my shoulder. But once I get that to move, that's going to feel awesome. Then I'm going to take the stick, pin it down about waist height. I'm going to bring it up over my head. I'm going to bring it back down. I'm going to find breath as I do it. Pulling the belly button in. I'm going to push you back just a bit so you guys can see me. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to bring this up over my head. I'm going to bring this back down. And notice I'm able to bring it all the way around. You may not be able to get that movement, but that's okay. That's giving me an idea of where your shoulder impingement is. Okay? Your shoulders should roll smoothly around. Your scapula should lift up gently off your body. If you're finding it to be tight or an impingement, that means we need to do some work to get it open. Beautiful. After this, we're going to take our stick. We're going to bring it towards the midline of the body. I'm going to drop it and twist it down. I'm going to drop my head to one side, and that's going to open up that neck. I'm going to drop my head down. I'm going to roll it back up. I'm going to drop my head down. I'm going to roll it back up. Good. Now you're going to drop ear to shoulder, back up, ear to shoulder, and back up. All of this is now released, the entire front and side of my neck, all the sternocleidomastoid, all the way to the shoulder. We're going to go right here on the other side. This is the key. You're going to bring it into your chest. You're going to drop it and roll it. You're going to keep that hand underneath and twist it. And you're going to do that rotation with the head. You're going to look down, and then you can look up. Look down, and you can look up. Sternocleidomastoid is going to start to release and open. So when you have to play, when you're out there and you're trying to play, you'll be able to play without any impingement in the neck. And that's a beautiful way to get that loose. Other way to do this is to do both sides. Twist one side, you're going to come back, twist the other side. Both sides are now twisted. Head's down. You're going to lift your head up, push it through. Sternum is tight, relax and breathe. Take a breath and release. All the stuff I'm showing you now is stuff that you can do to open up and release your body prior to starting either your class, or you can do this work prior to starting your performance. And then you release. With that movement in the shoulder, now my scapula is rolling completely over and away from my body without that sticking motion. So that's a beautiful thing. These are called, again, all this is PVC pipe and 2 racquetballs. One of my tennis balls have disappeared. My dog has decided to take it. All right. The other thing we want to work on is really simply, that was really simple stuff on the shoulder. So simple. I think I have a half hour for the class, so I want to try and give you guys as much information as possible. Trigger points are really something that we all suffer, and I really want to give you that information. I'm going to bring you down low so you can see what I'm doing in my hip. Blue, come on, up. That's my paw. Okay, let's bring you down, and let's tilt your baby down here. Awesome. Okay. See, that's my boy. Here we are on the floor now. I'm going to go into a very simple trigger point release. Could you please move over? Go over there. Take your doll and go over there, buddy. No, stay. Okay, take the ball. All right. So, one of the places that we tend to get really tight and we get trigger points on, we don't know what to do, is right through the lat, okay? And the extension of the lat actually attaches into the humerus, and I think you guys probably know that from playing all the work that you play, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to lean into that, and you're going to let that ball release that trigger point. You're going to slowly breathe, take a deep breath in, and take a deep breath out and roll out, and slowly allow that to release. Now, one of the biggest faults that we all do is we try to hold our head up, and that's not necessary. You can utilize a pad behind your head, and that will allow you to release, and you can come back and roll forward again. We're going after the attachment of the latissimus dorsi into the humerus. We're going to release that tissue. Once that tissue is, that shoulder begins to become mobile, and you don't have to have the tightness. A lot of us suffer from the tightness because of we're twirling or we're doing work in our forearms. The twisting work that I showed you with the rod is going to help release that forearm to release. Understand, you've been working on computers all day. You're also falling into kyphosis in the shoulder, and we've got to open up that tissue. I know, you're probably sitting there maybe saying to yourself, why do I care about all this? Because you want to maximize the movement that you're trying to do. And one of the greatest ways to deter or to get into injury is to have tissue that's been tight or not released properly, and then moving forward with that tissue over and over again begins to develop patterns. And those patterns, after a while, is where we have dysfunction. And I want to try to help you guys with anything that I can help you with to help you so that you can break up that dysfunction before it becomes a pattern or before the injuries start to happen. You won't see them now, but if you continue in the pattern movement that you're doing, you will start to see it and feel it. And there's very simple fixes that'll help you to feel better. Other thing I can say is really working and making sure you have enough water in your system. Water is really important. You don't want your muscles to end up like beef jerky. You want to keep it fluid, and that's really important, especially if you're playing with fire. You start to release electrolytes, and you lose water really fast. And if you're in heat, you really got to make sure you're staying really well hydrated. So that's a quick one for the lat. I'm going to go into something for your neck. This is so crazy stupid. I love this thing. All right. All I did was take a sock. I tied 2 lacrosse balls in it. And now I have a beautiful way to work out my neck. I'm going to lie down on the floor. I'm going to let the balls sit right at the occipital bones at the base of the head. And I'm going to hold it. This is also great for migraines. Any of those migraine sufferers out there, raise your hand. This is a great way to kind of release it. You're going to slowly allow your body to go back, and you're going to let the balls roll right along the spine. Do not roll it onto the spine, because the facets of the spine, you can get injured. Slowly allow the balls to roll back. and then get it down and roll back. And you can slowly start eking your way into it, and now raise the hips. And now you're just rolling through the whole spine. We're going to stop right here, right at the, for you women, where your raw top meets. Right there is the origin of your psoas, which goes from upper back down through into your leg. So that tight hip flexor that you can't release is usually a psoas muscle. So we're going to hold here and get that origin of release, and then we're going to breathe. And that's really important, is to find breath here. Take a deep breath in, breathe out, and slowly push back. Take a deep breath in, and breathe out, and slowly press back. Very simple, very, very simple move. All I'm using, again, is a sock and two lacrosse balls. It just really just opens up my the whole spine and works through that. Oh God, there's so much stuff I want to show you guys. There's flossing, there's releasing. Actually, let's do release of the calf real quick, so we can talk about foot function and what happens with that. Now, where is it? Oh. There it is. Beautiful. All right. So one of the good things I like to use is a block. I utilize this block as a trigger point block. You may have seen them. They advertise trigger points. They have a ball. They have a little thing that comes with it. But one of the greatest ways, and they show you how to do this in trigger point, is to put the foot up on top and get the gastrocsoleus muscle of the calf and slowly let the foot just move. Now, notice that I'm just slapping my foot down. I don't roll it back and forth. And the reason why we don't roll it back and forth is because rolling it back and forth is just going to re-aggravate the trigger. But moving it through the range of motion gets the trigger to slowly release. Then I'm going to rotate that ball to the inside, and I'm going to slowly raise the foot and slap it down. Then release that trigger. And just let it just slowly just open up and slowly release. And that's the way we kind of do the trigger point here. Now, the reason being, if you're up and you're playing and you're rolling things and you're throwing things, you're doing dart, you're doing all this great stuff, great work, but if your feet aren't feeling good and you're not planting correctly, that's going to travel all the way up the posterior line. And then we can talk about myofascia, we can talk about your spiral line, we can talk about your front line. There's so much stuff. But I want to first give you guys stuff that's going to help your basic movement pattern. One of the basic movement patterns I see is a lot of flexing and extension, which is going to tell me a lot of psoas and a lot of hip flexor. So if I was going to do a stretch and I wanted to open up my groin, I'm going to flex that foot forward. I'm going to take the other foot perpendicular, and I'm going to slowly make sure that front knee doesn't roll in. I'm going to push it out, pushing through the tips of the top of that foot and the toe, and also the front of that heel. And I'm going to slowly push forward. I'm going to spiral this open, squeezing this, untucking that back leg, slowly keeping that leg perpendicular right here. And that's going to give me a nice groin stretch, and that's going to open up the tissue of the groin. To help me to go into this front flexion stretch, because this is a stretch we all know. But do we know this one where we can go right into the groin, opening ourselves up, hitting our psoas, warming us up, and then allowing us to turn? Okay. What else can I quickly show you guys? No time is of the essence. I want to talk about, I really wanted you guys to question me. It's so weird. I'm not sure how this format is working, or if there is any questions before I go any further, because I can really attack. If you have an injury or if you have a muscle issue, I'd like to see if you guys want to type something out and let me know, or you have something that's bothering you, maybe I can help you find ways to correct it. So I don't know what to do. Alice, is there a question I can pose to you? I know someone talked to Nick and he was talking. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Is there,
Hey, Suma. Sorry about that. This is Lisa. I
Thank
can
you.
read questions off to you if you'd like.
yes, I would love that. I'm trying to find it and I'm feeling kind of lost. Give me
Yeah,
the
no,
question.
sorry about that. We just had a little delay. Okay, so we got a few questions for you. First one, we are all spending so much time at computers now. How can we help keep our neck and shoulders free of pain? So I presume this is about sitting a lot.
Okay, so one of the things is I just showed you really great neck work. I love that. Again, the sock with the also the stick, which is why I started with the upper body. The stick work that I just showed you, it's awesome. Listen, if you go to my YouTube page, I hate to plug here, but I have a lot of this stuff that I'm showing you right now really quickly on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube page, you can pull into that. It's Empower RI. It's Empower RI. So there's two R's. So you Empower and then like RI, and you'll see it. It'll come up, and you get some more information on that. Shoulders and neck. What happens is it's the kyphosis that we're in, right? We're on the computer and we're like this. So I worked on the posterior chain and opening that up. Now, the anterior chain, that's the one that hurts like an SOB now. Get at. But I'm going to show it to you real quick because I love y'all. All right, you got your block. You can use the block if you want to. You don't have to. Sometimes a large softball will work also very well. You're going to lie down. You're going to place it between the nipple and the auxiliary line, okay, which is your back off eyeball. You're going to place it between the nipple and the auxiliary line. Lie down. Down. Yes, my dog has a mohawk. He's a badass. All right.
We love your dog.
You're going to place it down. Head's going to go down on the floor, and you're going to just raise. You're going to take your chest and place it right on that ball, and you're going to move your hand through it. Now, the one thing you have to find in common is that I always work with movement. Always try to work with movement. Very few times will I tell people not to move. And just find it through there. If you can do that, that's now going to open up that chest cushion that was kyphosis, and you're going to find your shoulders down, away from your ears, and your body's going to feel a lot better. Okay, give me another question.
All right, next question. This isn't necessarily a flow arts issue, but do you have suggestions for strengthening or stretching for runner's knee or patella tendon issues?
Ooh, great. Okay. So, are you sure it's runner's knee, and are you sure it's patella tendon knee? That's first, right? I love when people diagnose from the computer. I always get very careful with that. But the best thing I can do is actually, if your knees aren't going to scream at you, the ones I showed you, this forward flexion is really good, and this going into this. And just slowly just allowing the stretch to happen through the hips, slowly seeing if you can get some movement there. A lot of times people complain about patella tendons and runner's knee and other issues, and it's usually not coming from the knee, it's usually actually coming from the hip. The hip is a culprit for a lot of it. Also, how your feet are falling. So that movement that I did with the block and opening up the tissue, the gastrosoleus back here, that will also help to relieve that tension that you're feeling in the knee. So it's usually above the injury or below the injury where the problem is actually coming from. One of the things that I love to do is called flossing, and it's like getting a rubber band and allowing the hip to get pulled out. So my question is to this person is, do you feel any hip pain at all with running? And if you do, which side and where? So I'm going to put that out to you. Write that back in your comments, and we'll come back to that question. Any others?
Okay, yes, we do have other questions. All right. I am on my feet all day for work, chef, and contractor. By the end of the day, the tops and bottoms of my feet ache so much it's hard to want to be on them anymore to practice with my props. What can I do to help them?
Okay, first of all, I hate to tell you, get rid of your Crocs. I know they're comfy, supposedly, but there's not enough support in them. And that's really what's happening. So the foot is looking for support. The problem is, let me explain. I'm not saying the foot isn't strong, so let me first clarify that. The foot is strong. It's made to move. The problem is that we have taken our feet, which are pliable, movable objects. Yay, I love feet. Pliable, movable objects, and we've placed them in these things for umpteen years. If you were to place your hands in a glove with a thick rubber sole, and you would wonder why your hands would be exhausted if you took them out of that glove and you began to move them. So the problem is that your feet are kind of weak. So, and Crocs, you're just sinking into it. So I'd like for you to kind of take some time and start, even though your feet are tired, when they're feeling better and you can get to it. It sounds so stupid, but going to the beach and gripping the sand and really working on building up your foot strength, trying to get out of your shoes as much as possible. Also, are you flat-footed? That's another issue. The feet are rolling in, they don't have strength. So doing the calf stretches that I showed you, or the trigger point work that I showed you to release that line will help those feet. Also, the other thing is, can you move your toes like individually? Do they have dexterity? That's really huge. One of the things I like to do is put my fingers between my toes, and I like to stretch my feet out. Most people can't move their toes, and they become one locked unit. So the toes aren't able to support the entire foot complex like it should, because it doesn't know how to move anymore. So I'm going to ask you to really start to take time and play with the toes, because they love it. So hopefully that was some help. I'll be more than happy. I think my email's in the comments things. You can hit me up with some emails. Give me another question. We'll make sure I get these guys good.
Sure thing. We got two more. And Kat, if you're listening, I reposted, you got that question from Tasuma if you'd like to reply. So our next question, my shoulders have started clicking when I play with koi. Should I be worried about anything? It doesn't hurt, but it seems a little tight.
Okay, yes, exactly. It's tight. So yes, if you're playing with koi, I worked with one of your koi spinners, Jeff, and we're always working on that shoulder mobility because it's locking. What I'm going to ask you to do is to do the work that I just said. That's why I went through that shoulder thing first. Open it up, see if it feels better, see if it still clicks. And then we got to talk about strengthening. Because what happens is you can have mobility and strength and they can be married together. We don't tend to think we can. But you can actually marry mobility and strength really greatly together. So there's a couple of really sweet, easy rotator cuff exercises you can do. If you've had a rotator cuff injury, you probably learned drawing the swords in and out, things like that. All great, done with a simple band, not a difficult activity to do, but you have to really be, one, consistent in doing it, and two, thoughtful at the time. Don't just go through it 1, 2, 3, 4. Go slow. The same way you go slow when you learn your spinning tricks, use that same, just become very methodical in how you train your body. Because now, if you guys love doing what you do and you want to do it for longevity, you've got to be smart in your training. I'm 54, I train, and I try to be smart with my training because I really love my vehicle and I really want to make sure I'm up and I'm available to do it for a longer period of time. So just because you're young and getting through it and you're clicking, you're smart. Ask the questions, do what you need to do. Strength work on that shoulder would be huge right now, strength work. And we can, again, email me when you get some time and I'm more than happy to help you out. What's up? Give me another one. I think it's the last one, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, let's make this the last one. Kat actually did reply to you. We had that runner's knee or patella question earlier. Her answer to you was, I don't feel it in my hips. It started on hiking descents.
Okay, cool. All right. Now, what's happening is you're driving that femur into that patella, so that tendon's trying to hold that stress. So we have to get you stronger in your glute so you can control your descent on that as you're driving through. So glute exercises would help. Also, making sure that you're trying to hold back the force as it's coming down. God, I wish I could talk to you, God. I'd be able to give you more answers and be more perceptible. But hopefully that's helpful. But what we do with that is really work on that glute strength, work on that quad strength, the hold back, and to control the deceleration from hiking.
Excellent. All right. And we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, Jasuma. This was amazing. And we love your dog.
I know, right? I'm so fast. I'm hoping you guys really loved it. I'm really sorry that I didn't have anything put together, but I really want to be able to address the individual issues to the best of my ability. Hit me back whenever you guys have any questions. Come here, say hi. And Blue says hi.
Hi, Blue.
Thank you guys so much. Sending you love, compassion, and
Thank you, Jasuma.
Hello again.
Hi, everybody. This is all you, Alice.
Yeah, mostly we just wanted to come back one more time and say thank you again so much to the amazing workshop teachers that we had tonight. I don't know about you, but I got so much out of both of those. That was absolutely wonderful. I will be rewatching again later and taking notes. Right now, we are about to open up a group hang in the WildFire Retreat Home Away from Home Facebook group. So if anybody wants to come on there, I'm opening it at the moment. And there we go. It is happening now. If anybody wants to come by, it should say at the top that there is a room called Post Embrace Hang open at the top of our page. Click the link, join the room, and we will see you there.
Yeah, for those of you who are not a part of that group, for any reason, I'll also drop that link over in the where this video is playing in just a moment. So we hope you'll all join us. And please don't forget to drop a few bucks to your instructors if you possibly can. They deserve far more than we could ever possibly give them. This was amazing. I had one comment in the Facebook group that said, sorry, we're not saying anything. We're all listening, and said something else that was like specific to, we're just trying to listen to this. And this was so useful. So thank you so much to Nick and to Suma for this. We really, really appreciate it. Okay.
I spoke too soon. The room will be open in a minute. It's having a little bit of a glitch right now. But we're going to say goodbye for now, and we will see you on the Facebook group in just a few if you want to come chat and hang out with us for a little bit. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It has been our honor to bring this to you, and we will be sharing all sorts of fun things in the event throughout the week, and we'll see you back here next Thursday at the same time for more amazing workshops. All right? Have a good night, everybody.